We're in a moment of technological acceleration unlike anything the world has seen before. 5 years from now, life will look radically different, and the shift is already underway. I'm Rachel Wilkins, and this is The Good News Is, a show about what's next and how to meet it with curiosity. Each week, I'll talk with the thinkers and builders that are shaping the future, from the evolution of money to digital land, on-chain fashion, and even space travel. Let's get into it. Today, I'm joined by Matt Hixson, founder of Telligence and a veteran in enterprise software and social media strategy. We dive into how AI is reshaping movies, creativity, marketing, and even the future of work. It's a fascinating look at disruption and opportunity. Let's get into it. All right, welcome to this episode of The Good News Is. Today's guest sits at the intersection of analytics, creativity, and the AI-fueled future of storytelling. Matt Hixson is the co-founder and CEO of a next-gen AI company and a seasoned enterprise software leader with nearly 2 decades of experience helping platforms like YouTube and Google to decode user behavior and unlock new forms of engagement. A former CPA with an MBA from the University of Oregon and an executive credential from Harvard's High Potential Leaders Program, Matt brings both left brain structure and right brain vision to the table. Matt, it is such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for agreeing to sit down. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks. I told you earlier, it's my first ever podcast. So, you're my very first. I need the intro that you just sent because I obviously need you for branding because I'm not good at that stuff. So
I am honored that you said yes and that I'm absolutely your
of course.
But I feel like we've been hanging out in digital kind of social audio spaces for probably 4 years at this point.
It's been a minute.
So
yeah, I mean, on the weekly Twitter show, I tell you all the time that it was women in Web3, and I was like, well, I want to talk about what they're talking about. So I raised my hand, and I didn't know if I was going to get crucified when I went up there or not. But here we are, 4 years later. So
I share this story often about how powerful that was because you did something that I think we need more men to do, and that is to step in and step up as an ally. Not be afraid to join a stage where there are women talking knowledgeably about a topic, but also be like, I'm here. How can I be supportive and how can I be helpful? And you're such a good example of that, Matt. So thank you for your allyship. What I do want to talk about today is, of course, we're going to talk AI as a sweeping topic, but you're also not only working in kind of the data and analytics side of things, which, full transparency, I have no clue what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, fair enough.
And we'll get into that. Maybe you can give us the TLDR, but also this fascinating moment we find ourselves in right now where AI is really just, it's affecting everything, every touch point of people's lives, but especially, and you and I speak often about how it's impacting creativity, whether that's artists like the ones you have on your wall behind you there, or whether it's studio houses producing movies. So I guess first question kind of out the gate is, what is the biggest kind of fear that you're hearing from folks when it comes to AI?
Well, I don't really work in the creative side. I mean, our company and my day-to-day is in data analytics, and we can go down that rabbit hole at some point. But I think that there's two sides of it, right? The individual, they don't really know what's coming yet. A lot of them have played with ChatGPT. In full transparency, like you said in my bio, I've worked with Google for a long time. So use Gemini, not ChatGPT. I'll tell you that. But they're playing with it, right? They're like, okay, this is cool, or maybe it's not cool. I think one of the things that they're realizing right now, if you're using it for creativity, like write me a song, write me a poem, write me a letter, write me whatever, it can be wrong, right? It doesn't have to be right. When you get into the enterprise with the people that I would deal with every day, a lot of them have tried it, and I think that they're scared to use it because they don't trust it yet. And I've had this conversation a lot where people want to, especially some of these brands in this space, want to talk about all the great things they're doing. I'm like, if they can't trust your output, if you give it a hallucination, right, in the AI space, basically just making stuff up, they don't trust it. And especially when it comes to making enterprise decisions. So I think that individual people may have seen that and they're like, yeah, I'm not ready to do that yet, right? I'm not ready to put my job on the line for that yet. But at a corporate level, at a executive level, they're absolutely looking at this. The future of every person's job is going to change, right? And it's not just the things you see in ChatGPT. I mean, there's things like agents coming and all sorts of things that people are playing with now. If you're in the space, you read about them a lot, but they're really just being played with right now. But agents are basically, you can think of them as bots that do individual tasks, right? And all the mundane things that you do in your job that you're like, oh, I wish I didn't have to do this in the future. A bot will do that in the future. Like if it can be programmed to do that in that way, it'll do that. Now, everybody's got to look at where do I fit in that world, right? How do I leverage AI? Not be afraid of it, but how do I leverage it? And hopefully it leads to us making more progress. I have 3 kids. One is graduating with an interior design degree next year. And I've tried to push on them because even people in their industry are like, that's not going to impact us. I'm like, no, that will 100% impact you. But I think any place where physical, real world stuff matters is a great place for you to be. Art is one of those, right? It can be digital, whatever, but I think experiences, real world places. My second daughter is getting ready to enter makeup school down in LA. People still want to look good, right? They still physically want to look good. So those are things, but I think that people have a lot of hope for AI. I think hallucinations are the biggest bottleneck or hurdle for them to really believing AI can do all the things they want. And I don't think most people don't realize the extent of what's coming. So.
Yeah, I was at Christie's recently, and they were talking. One of the speakers was touching on this idea of how we initially had this thought and fear that the jobs that would be taken by AI are kind of the blue collar, like hands-on jobs, but it's actually more that middle management kind of executive suite jobs that will go, because guess what? We still need people to do things with their hands. We still need people to make something and make a sandwich. Yeah. Like essentially, like that kind of whole segment of jobs really won't be as disrupted as some of these more senior positions. I think he put it like jobs that you go to university for are more likely to be impacted than the trade jobs.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, my daughter was my older daughter was a communications major, and I was talking to her. I'm like, I don't know that survives. I mean, it survives, but it looks really different in the next 5 years, right? Communications, because an AI can answer a lot of that stuff, right? An AI can do a lot of that stuff. So yeah, it's going to be challenging.
So first of all, I want you to tell us about Telligence. Tell us what kind of led you to found it. Because when we think about AI, like this is something that, of course, is like front of mind for a lot of people over the last 3 or 4 years. But you've been working in this space for over a decade, like leading some of the sentiment conversation before the word sentiment was even being thrown around in this space. So talk to us about Telligence. Tell us where you're up to in that process.
Well, I was thinking this morning, I probably need to do. Telligence has been through a lot of ups and downs. Telligence was founded in 2011, and it's had its fair share of hard times for sure. So I probably at some point need to. I'm better at talking than I'm writing. I don't do writing well at all. I probably just need to do a video series on the history of Telligence. It's gone up and down. It's crashed. I fired everybody at one point in time because we were out of money. Had to go back to investors and ask for more money, recapitalize the company. It's been a wild ride. Through all that, I will say that, one of my partners she was at YouTube for a long time, and then at Google has really been a savior to me and to what we do. And we started Telligence in 2011 when social was first kicking off. And this is before influencers are defined what they're defined today, right? The Kylie Jenners of the world with millions and millions, or Mr. Beasts or whatever. We were looking at communities, right? And that's what I love about the art community and the online art community is a community, right? Of people that are passionate and that care. You can see the connections. And the initial question that I was asking from a business point of view was, I was on Twitter back in 2011, and that's when you were just kind of, it was a small community at the time, and you could connect with people, but it was very serendipitous, right? It was like, who do I interact with? Who do I happen to connect with? Whatever. And I wanted to get to a place where it's like, who are the 5 people I should spend time building my relationship with that are going to matter to me, right? That are going to help me spread my points of view, or drive conversation I want to drive, or build relationships I want to build. And that was a hard thing because people always thought it was the biggest people. It's not. I was with Rad and Danko, I was at a thing in LA for Tristan Eaton, who's this artist right here, famous, artist in LA. And I asked somebody, I said, who do you think the most influential person in this room is? And they said, oh, it's Tristan. I'm like, no, it's not. I'm like, see that lady sitting at the bar right there? She's the most influential person in the room because she's his publicist and she's the one that influences him to do what she does, right? Or what he does. And those are the types of things we were interested in early on. But people didn't, in AI, when you say we've been doing AI for a long time, we have to some degree, but what we were doing back then is probably 20 years ahead of its time. My co-founder is the smart one. I'm definitely not the smart one of this group. But he had come up with an algorithm that allowed us to predict how word of mouth was going to travel across these communities, right? So I could pinpoint a handful of people that if I built relationships with them, when I spoke, they picked it up and they spread it across. And I'd seen this organically, but that didn't work. The market wasn't ready for that. The market they were media people, right? They were interested in how do I find the biggest voice and pump messages through it. Right? It was push messaging. It wasn't community. And I think we're just now starting to get back around to community. So when we say AI today, when you see ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever else, they're neural networks. They're large language models. That's what they are. And that's kind of what AI has been defined as, but that's not all of AI by any means. And so we've been doing natural language processing, machine learning, but really this kind of graph idea that we've had and how you understand how to navigate that graph. We've pitched some people lately and they're like, oh, it's a knowledge graph. I'm like, well, not really.
So not a social graph or a knowledge graph, but something beyond
not really.
Sentiment graph almost?
No, this is the problem is we haven't figured out how to pitch it in 20 years. So, but anyways, what I would say is AI has a lot of different flavors to it. And what you're going to see and what you see right now is that the bigger is better model that ChatGPT and Google and Facebook and Meta, all these people are going after, where you hear them spending tens of billions and hundreds of billions of dollars on data centers to get more and more and more compute and more data. It has a limit. Bigger is better doesn't work. And so what you're going to see over the next couple of years is this evolution into the next generation of AI models, non-transformer based models, things like that, which is kind of the standard. So what Telligence does is we've been doing all these. Telligence died at one point, came back to life because we were working with Jake Rosen, who was at YouTube at the time, and Marion, who's at YouTube at the time. And they were drawing some problems on the wall. And I said, we solved those like 5 or 6 years ago. And they were kind of patching stuff together. So we started doing some research projects for them. And a couple of years ago, they came to us and they said, can you build a sentiment model for YouTube comments? I said, okay. And to us, it was just another natural language processing challenge, right? And so this is pre-ChatGPT. And for everybody that thinks AI is new, it's not. Like, Google and all these people have been working on this for a decade or two. Like this has been around a long time. ChatGPT was like actually OpenAI released it, not thinking it was going to be what it was. It was an experiment, just thinking like, let's just put this out there and see what happens. And here we are.
I did not know that. And that was kind of like the 1,000 songs in your pocket moment, really, for AI.
Yeah, and for people, it's just that you can have a conversation with it, not that it's smarter necessarily. It's gotten a lot smarter.
Yeah.
But so we were challenged with sentiment, right? And when you're dealing with analytics, the problem is that when you do something creative with AI, it can be wrong, right? Mm-hmm. It can be whatever. And I put it on this spectrum of fact to fiction. When you're dealing with fiction, fine, be creative, hallucinate, do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. When you're dealing with facts and you're dealing with an enterprise, if I give them the wrong answer most of the time, I'm out of business, right? It just doesn't work. And so my co-founder Nitin was trying to figure out how do we make sentiment highly, highly, highly accurate? Because anybody that deals with sentiment in social analytics or in analytics in general knows it tends to suck. It's 80, 85% neutral, and it's a little bit of positive and negative on the edges. And that's because these algorithms look at individual words, determine if they're positive or negative, and if there's any question whatsoever, they put it into neutral. They don't understand context, they don't understand sarcasm or nuance or any of that stuff. And so we were trying to really build an amazing product out of that. And what we figured out is that we can take, in our world, we take a lot of social data. And so we could take piles and piles and piles of data about a video, about a conversation on social within a context, right? Within a specific topic. And we could process that and break it down into these little summaries, these contextualized summaries. And when we would then go ask Gemini, say, hey, evaluate the sentiment of this post, we would send that summary that post was a part of and say, this is the context. This is what I want you to focus on. And the output of that was it dramatically increased the accuracy. Like we've had people, major agencies physically test this, and it's 95% accurate versus probably 60, what normal sentiment is.
Wow.
It understands nuance, it understands sarcasm, it understands context of the conversation you're in, all these different things. And so what we realized was context, when we talked about hallucinations earlier, in anytime you read an AI right now, context is something you hear a ton about. But nobody knows how to actually turn it into something. Well, what we've really found ourselves specializing in is we can take enterprise data and turn it into context to make your AI and agents much, much, much better.
Wow.
We can virtually...
Sorry to cut you off. I'm just thinking for listeners who perhaps are at like that, enterprise level or business level, like, can you give like a working example of how you could see it's really benefiting?
Yeah. So I have this slide that I show customers that I'll just give you an example of how context matters. Let's put it that way. So I have this example I use for customers where if I tell you she's coming for blood, Rachel, is that positive or negative?
Negative.
Okay, but depends.
My perception is it's negative, right?
Now, when anybody says anything like that or gives you a statement, right, you have to know context, right? It's like going to the doctor and being like, I have a cough, and them going, okay, well, here's your remedy without knowing anything else about what's going on, right? So if I say she's coming for blood, I think the 3 pictures I picked up before, it could be Uma Thurman in Kill Bill, right? That's she's coming for blood, revenge. I think I put one of the pictures up was Caitlin Clark, right? She's coming for blood in kind of a sports sense of like, she's going to beat you. And then I put Miranda from A Devil Wears Prada because she's coming for blood in a business sense, right? But it's none of those. It's actually a comment that was on one of Olivia Rodrigo's videos, music videos, because her last album was about vampires and blood and stuff. And the context of that is it's a positive thing because she's coming for blood means she's coming for success. Her music's going to be this great album. And so we took 80,000 comments from that video and processed it, and it understood that was positive in that context because it has context. And in this world where we get to not just AI, there's a lot of business cases, use cases of AI, but anytime, even anybody that's listening to this, right, and they're doing an individual prompt, you get a better answer when you give it as much information as possible. But that's really hard. Like I like I said, I hate writing. And so I'll write and I'll be like, I know I need to add more, but I don't know what I need to add. But at an enterprise level, they have a lot of data. We can turn that into context to give you the best answer. And when we get to agents, that world that I was talking about, if agents don't have context of what problem they're solving or what the current situation is, they're just going to run around and do stuff. We don't want them doing that. So that's kind of where, and we have a platform that we use for marketers that is the application of that context into, so the use of that when you asked earlier what the fear is. So we work with an agency who's been using this, and it's for every project an analyst does, it saves them about 10 hours of work every time. And we do it in no time used for them, right? And they do about 4 or 5 projects a month. And so it saves them, it generates about a week more worth of open time for them. And these people are just massively overworked. They don't have the bandwidth to do stuff. They're sampling data. They're not looking at the whole data set. And then they're still using human bias.
Wow.
So.
I mean, it's fascinating. And I think, for a lot of people, they're thinking about how this is going to take away their jobs, but also for a lot of people, they're thinking about this could really make me exponentially more productive than
Yeah.
I've ever been before, and that's really exciting.
Well, and I'll give you. Sorry, Rachel. You know
No,
we'll
go
talk.
ahead, please.
Give me the bandwidth, but I'll give you a real life example that I wasn't thinking about the other day. So with Google, they use Gemini, right? That's their AI, and I should say this too. For the most part, all the foundational models, Gemini, Claude, OpenAI, or ChatGPT, they've all kind of hit parity where they're all. It's no longer like ChatGPT is light years ahead. They're all pretty much in the same place, right? What you start to get into now is where those products attach to. How do you use them in your daily life? And so I've, being a data analyst, I've done a lot of work in Excel for many, many, many years. And I know Excel really well, but I also know that it's a little like I was doing something the other day where I was splitting up some data and I was building some graphs for a client and all these things. And I thought Google has Gemini built into Google Sheets now. And so I just highlighted the data I wanted and I said, do this, like what it would have taken me 20 minutes to pull data apart and do all these things. And it just built the graph for me.
Wow.
Like I just told it what I wanted to do, right? And for me, that saved 20 minutes, I don't have an extra 20 minutes every day. So
Right.
it's like, and you add that up 5 or 6 or 10 times, it has a real life impact. So I think that's the place we're heading right now.
Yeah, I think those that have the ability to harness it and really kind of pay attention to just ensuring that their prompts, like you said, are thorough and they're really being, making sure that they're really fleshing out their ideas rather than just generating slop is going to be, it's going to be a powerful tool for them. I heard somebody say, make soup, not slop, which I thought was great. So let's pivot a little bit to just the tooling that you're getting to kind of witness. I feel like you're like my guy on the ground in terms of knowing exactly what is happening at the bleeding edge of tooling in AI. I would love to talk a little bit about what you're seeing at Google with video, because this is, talk about disruptive.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, we've all been in, probably a lot of your listeners, we've been playing with Midjourney for a long time, or different video models, or whatever it may be. And images took such a massive leap over about a year's course, right? Where all of a sudden it was generating stuff, and then it was generating really cool stuff. And then video, it was like OpenAI released. We saw Runway, right? And we saw Pika and some other ones, and they were doing like little bitty clips of stuff, and it was cool, but it wasn't really realistic yet. And then we kind of saw Sora from ChatGPT, where they teased that a while back with some influencers, and it was cool, but it's like nobody could get their hands on it. And then in the same time, we've seen things like 11 Labs, who do audio for people, and even having this conversation, right? There's a world coming in which it's just going to be AI scripted and AI people and voices, right? It's like that's going to happen. It's already happening.
Yep.
But Veo 3, they launched. Veo, they were kind of slowly launching, and it was doing stuff. And I think the thing with Google, even with their image platform, Google's just massive, right? They have so many resources, and they can just keep moving forward and keep plodding along. And Veo 3 they launched, and it was game changing. Like, it was a big deal. The physics engines in it, the realism of it, and it also comes with voice. And I think that's the other big leap that they took, was matching voice to the video. Right. The stuff that I've seen come out is, and people have spent time and they're getting better and better, just like we saw with Midjourney and stuff early on. It's just crazy. Like, people are able to create real video. And so Veo 3 will do, I actually don't know what the video length is right now. It's in the teens of seconds that it will do at one point in time. But then they have this product called Flow, which is like, you can go into Veo and you can go into Flow and you can make videos, right? You can upload assets, and they did this amazing like demo of this. Like, they had this guy they had a picture of a guy, a car, the shifter knob that was like this chicken head thing, and like this kind of background, right? Like, what are my scene elements? And then it started writing like the script, and it would create a video, and you would drop it down in just like you would in iMovie or, Adobe or whatever else, right? Or Final Cut Pro. And then you could basically say, now extend this scene and I want it to do this next, right? So it does things where you were talking about how my creative brain, right? I have all these ideas, but I have no talent, right? So it's like these tools allow me to make some of those things come to life that I couldn't do before.
Yep.
And yeah, what they're doing with I'm shocked more people don't talk about flow. Like if VO3 is cool, but flow is to me really cool. So,
and it's kind of a good segue to talk a little bit about IP. And one of the areas that brought us together was we met in kind of the digital art, NFT, Web3 on-chain space in 2021, when really there was this huge conversation around ownership of digital artwork, and artists were finally able to take digital works and create economic models for themselves. Now we've seen somewhat of a little bit of a nosedive in terms of how creatives can monetize their work. There isn't necessarily the same industry that was here 3 or 4 years ago. But what's really interesting now is that you have these tools at your disposal.
mm-hmm.
You have a lot of IP that was created during that, like a creative renaissance, essentially. There was a lot of slop, yes, but there was also a lot of really high quality work that was created. One such project was the Ethereals, which created by a mutual friend, Jimmy Danko. Amazing artwork. Rad, again, mutual friend of both of ours, was on the leadership team, the creative direction team. You took ownership of the Ethereals IP, and I remember you saying a while back, like, there will be something at some point where I'll bring this to life. This is kind of a moment where we're starting to see some of those major collectors or collection owners really starting to think about how they could potentially bring this back to life. So I'm just curious, where's your head on that right now? I know you're a busy man with everything with intelligence, but do you see a potential there to bring this to life?
Yeah, I've always seen one there, right? I think that as I got to know Jimmy and Rad, who are awesome people and good friends, right, and understood the thought process that, the interesting combination of them is Rad is a really amazing brand thinker, right, storyteller, and Jimmy's an amazing artist. And when you look at Ethereals, for example, it's not a bunch of random elements that were put into Ethereals. They thought through the potential for brand partnerships in the future, right? When you look at it's a generative collection, but when you look at the parts, like the arms or the faces or whatever else, they're all into categories, whether it be sports or fitness, or like there's all these categories that they group these elements into. It's not like this would look cool. It did look cool, but it's like they thought through that. And so the other thing that they did was there was a deep storytelling element to it, right? And even these IPs that don't have it, you can make it up. Like that's the one beauty of AI. You could really spend some time in AI and build this like really rich storytelling. I think the thing that makes me excited about AI, so, how I got to own the IP part or the project is a long story. It's really me I hold a whole lot of Ethereals. And it was really just me protecting the brand. And so many of these projects, as you and I've talked about, there was no business model, right? Mm-hmm. Or the business model didn't take off. Yeah. And all these people, and I own the Discord, so it's fun going in there once in a while. This is a rug. This is a rug. I'm like, no, it's not. Like, it's a failed business. It just is what it is. Like, they delivered everything that they said they would. Mm-hmm. But all these businesses, because the business model wasn't strong, it failed. And by the way, 9 out of 10 startups fail. It's just how this works.
Exactly.
But there's some amazing IP there. And I think that if you take the elements of that IP, which, like you said, I just haven't had the bandwidth to do. I'm exhausted. It's Friday. So it's like I'm just like 12 hours off would be great. I think that there's a real path to building immense storytelling. Mm-hmm. And what I would love to see happen with Ethereals, and by the way, Mr. Beast, I think I sent you this the other day.
You did, and it's actually something I was going to bring up.
Okay, Mr. Beast is doing this animated series on short form video. So by the way, since I live in video, it's short form video is vertical video, right? Usually less than a minute, maybe 2. on YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, or TikTok. YouTube Shorts is, I think, the best place to do this because it's just YouTube is so dominant as a search engine. But you can take this IP and build these stories out, right? You can build stories about individual characters. You can build story narratives about, in ethereals, they live in a amusement park in space, right? That's where they live. There's a really rich lore there. So it could be that these people work at the hot dog stand, right? And you tell a whole story about this and you tell it from different perspectives. And you could create this framework where it opens up the ability for everyone to do that. That owns an ethereal, because you own the IP of the ethereals you own. And I'll call out one project, and it's brand new that just got released, and I think it's a really interesting model called Showrunner. Showrunner basically builds like these. I've been playing with it. I've looked at it and played with it in their Discord for a while, but they just publicly launched it. So you may make a show, right? I think it's called, I forget what the one they just did was, but Silicon Valley, like Exit Silicon Valley versus, whatever, the startup version. And you can add your characters or faces to it. They've created the narrative, and then you add your elements to it, so you don't have to have it all, right? But all these tools now make it so easy, like VO we were just talking about. I think you could create an entire short form video concept narrated by AI, storytelling by AI, video by AI. And once you get it going, it's like you're just replicating the same assets and elements. I don't know. I don't have the bandwidth, but I wish I did, because I just think it's so powerful. It's the one piece of ethereals I'd like to get some of the holders back together, because there's some amazing storytellers in there. And it's like, how do I do this? But it needs a leader, and that would have to be me. So
I'm curious as well, because we talked about business models and how it's amazing to have these creative tools at our fingertips, but there's still, as we kind of move into this space where everybody has access to all of these tools, right? It's democratized. It's great. Like you said, you have no creative talent, which I don't believe for a minute, but pretty much anybody with an idea now has the potential to create something magnificent and beautiful and functional and have it out in the world. So with that, do we then destroy the film industry? Do we destroy animation as an industry? Do we, or will there be this kind of, emergence of, the quality will rise to the top and maybe make way for new voices?
It disrupts it. I think every time we've ever seen a technology like this come along, it disrupts it. There's no doubt about that. Does it destroy it? I hope not. My daughter's wanting to go do makeup and film and TV, so I'm hoping that that's not the case. Excuse me. I don't know. It's interesting where you see creative or commercials using little bits and pieces of AI, and they're just getting roasted for it. But at some point, economics come into play here. Things that happen with CGI that would take. In fact, you and I were sharing a prompt the other day in VO3, where it was like an IKEA thing where they like unpack this box into a whole room. I copied the prompt from you sent it to me, and I'd played with it before, and it was pretty impressive, and that's something that a CGI, it would take, who knows what that would cost, hundreds of thousands of dollars to do. Easy. Probably.
Yeah.
And that happened in 30 seconds in VO, right? So the economics of this at some point go, this doesn't make any sense. And we see this with the agency world that we work with right now. They're undergoing a massive transformation where that world is all built on people and billable hours. I mean, this world, right?
Yeah.
If they can gain advantage where they can gain more business, because they either in the short term, they'll get margin out of it. In the long term, it'll be price competitive, and you'll go away from billing per hour of people to billing outputs, right? Billing on deliverables. But it's going to disrupt so many things over the next couple of years. People just don't even know. They may think about it, but they're just going to be shocked 5 years from now what the world looks like.
What do you think? Like, if you could kind of jump forward 5 years, what do you think will be most impacted as an industry?
Most impacted as an industry? I don't know. We're having conversations with major chip manufacturers, computer processor people, to agencies, to our work was just featured in an article from Cambridge on supply chain, global supply chain. there's just a lot of stuff. I don't know. It's going to impact everything. I think the thing that I'm envisioning is, and it'll never move as fast as I think it will in my brain probably, but maybe it will. I think 2 years from now, like in our marketing workforces, you're going to have half the people you had before, and you're going to have you're going to have agents and agentic AI running the other half of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it will be better, or we'll get fewer companies with more people and twice the work. I don't know. But you're going to have a whole synthetic workforce that is alongside humans in the loop. So
the agentic piece is particularly interesting to me. I've been playing around a lot with Banker on X, which is essentially just, it started really as like kind of a trading bot, but now you can, send money to friends. And I'm not paid by Banker to talk about this. It's just a really fascinating use case to me, because I think it removes a lot of the friction of bringing people into crypto, because everybody with a Twitter account, essentially you can send money, because you can send money to and from, because it's automatically creating a custodial wallet that's tied to somebody's social media account. And so that to me is where we start getting really interesting use cases. Like, hey, I did this a couple of weeks ago. Like, hey, Banker, send my brother $10 of USDC so we can go get a drink in the pub tonight, right? No international bank transfer fees, no thing instantly in his account that he can off ramp, on the other side of the world. So I think agents, where they are just eliminating steps, where you could say to an agent, hey, go order me a pizza, but find the best restaurant in the local area that has the best reviews and will deliver in the quickest time. Like, that's a reality. Like that's coming. That's just scratching the surface about what kind of is
very
coming.
much scratching the surface. Yeah. I mean, we're thinking about, and we're planning and building for 2 years from now when there's not a couple dozen agents or 1 or 2 agents, but thousands of agents, right, running across an organization. Now, all of a sudden, how do you think about coordinating them? How do you give them the information they need to do their job with the context of the agents around them, right? It's a fascinating time to be in tech, that's for sure.
As somebody who's so immersed in it on the business side, are you using it in your day-to-day personal?
I think about this all the time. I'm like, I should not be this busy. I should be using it all the time.
Right.
Probably not like I should, right? I say that I'm not creative. Like, I can't do what these amazing people behind me do. But my creativity, I started life as an accountant that had no creativity in it at all. So that didn't work for me. But building businesses, I have tons of ideas. What I'm hoping AI will allow me to bring some of those ideas to life more quickly, so I can feel like I realize them, not just feel like they're on a piece of paper. We've talked about my art app before. Like, I've thought about building that in one of these AI agents to see if I could do it. I'm slowly getting there with stuff, right? I still have a trust issue, and even though I use it, right, it's like, is it right? One thing. And like, if I go in and ask Gemini to say what's in my inbox that I need to know, does it give me the perspective I want it to give me? I will say, because I get, like everybody else, hundreds of emails in my inbox every day. I subscribe to so many AI newsletters. I'm using Apple's AI, and Apple Intelligence sucks, as we all know. They've missed the boat here. But the one thing in their email box is the ability to say, summarize this email for me. So for me to get 4 or 5 sentences that go, is this worth me reading, or should I just archive it and move on?
Right. So that's helpful. I'm starting to look at kind of this whole vibe coding movement that we're seeing, which, great for those who can do it. I have to say, I feel like I spend like 5 or 6 hours doing a whole lot of nothing and ending up with a whole lot of nothing.
I'll send you an app I've been playing with that actually, you just tell it what you want. I've tested it with one app, and it does an amazing job at building the whole thing. It kind of gets a little out of control, so I'm not confident enough to give it a nod verbally here, but I'll send it to you. You can play with it.
Perfect. The devs' jobs are safe for now. That's for sure.
For now, but they're going to change a lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about art, because it is something that you've been particularly passionate about in terms of like who you're collecting. Like, where do you land on this kind of idea of like, it's a hot topic of like is AI, art generated using just AI, does it compare to?
Yeah, it does. Has anybody seen Claire Silver's work? I mean, give me a break. Like,
Yeah.
Claire, one of my grail piece to own, honestly, is a Claire Silver, one of one. I've said this to her before. Is like, her work's phenomenal. And like, this is a TV, by the way, but let's see here.
We love this.
So I have all my NFTs loaded up here, but
That's so great. I love how you have your display paired with like some cores sculptures as well.
I'm trying to find one AI piece from Emmy. She is, of course, now I won't be able to find it now that we're on here.
No worries.
I have too much art. As you know, I have a very OCD moment where I collected way too much stuff.
You're such an avid collector, Matt, and you've been incredibly supportive of creators in this process. Why is that?
This is an AI artist. This is Mumbot, but this is an AI artist. Emmy, I forget Emmy's last name, but she's like Claire. But that's all AI. That's beautiful, right? And that takes skill. That's not just a random chance, right? It takes skill and prompting and how you tune it and all those things. And yeah, the AI is doing a lot of it, but yeah, no, I think AI art is art. Now, I will say that I have most of the art, all the art on that wall, physical pieces are physical artists. Like this piece here, this is Crayola, and this piece here is Crayola. Like the detail in his work, I've watched him do a long form YouTube stuff on like how he paints it, or this is Command Z, like he hand digitally paints all this. That skill is just mind blowing to me. It's the same to me. What I appreciated is the skill, right? I appreciate the beauty of it. I do love beautiful things across everything. I appreciate the skill of it. And then it's also like photography. Is photography skill? Yeah. Have you ever taken a picture and tried to replicate what some great photographer did? And oh, by the way, like our mutual friend, Rachel Wood, who she's like my Web3 crush, I think. So, but she's just like her lifestyle. She's like my spirit animal, I tell her.
I think she's all about the animal traveling.
The fact that she's in all these cool places in the world, right?
Yeah.
That matters. That's cool.
Yeah.
Like that's the physical world that we live in. So I don't know. I am a bit OCD on collecting various things. I have hundreds of pairs of sneakers. I have all this stuff. I have weird random things I get into, but it balances out all my analytics work. So
AI has its place in the canon of arts, in your opinion?
100%.
Yeah, I agree. So, Matt, we are getting towards the end of our session here, but what I would love you to leave people with is just a slice of optimism about AI in terms of, addressing perhaps some of those fears directly and what people should and can be excited about.
Yeah, I always think about technology advances in that people are going to use things. The people that want to use them for bad usually are first, right? Mm-hmm. Because they're the ones that make the noise. They're the ones that we saw this in crypto, right? People stealing stuff and we're robbing wallets and stuff like that. And then that becomes the narrative for that industry, right? Oh, it's not safe. Well, it all goes through that period of time. When the internet first came up, all of a sudden there were all these internet scams, a prince in Nigeria needs your money to get out of jail or whatever it is, right? Stuff like that. And AI is going to be the same way. There's going to be stuff that's going to be bad and there's going to be stuff that's going to be good. I think that the difference in AI versus a bunch of other stuff we've seen over the years is this is a transformative technology. Like this is probably, and you hear a lot of tech luminaries who've seen a lot of things, probably the biggest tech transformation we will ever see in our lifetimes. And there's going to be bumps along the way. But the fears, I don't know, the fears don't bother me. Like I know there's fears and people think that AI is going to take over the world and all this stuff. They're giving way too much credit to a neural network right now. I will tell you that. It's going to be so exciting for what you can create and what you can do. And when you look back 5 years from now to be like, I used to do my job like this, right? I started my career as an accountant, and one of my first clients was a university who did old school paper ledgers, right? And you'd look in there and people back from the 30s were still writing stuff in there. Well, now we have software that does it, right? Like that's just the advancement and made everybody's life better. The difference in AI is they're going to see that across all industries. And it is moving so fast. It's hard to keep up with right now, for sure. But I don't know. I'm very excited about it, obviously. Right? I have a really terrible job if I wasn't excited about it. So.
You just reminded me of a conversation I had recently with a friend who said, my worry is that I don't want to become too reliant on it. And I said, okay, understood. But would you like a pen and paper to do some maths equations, or would you like this calculator? Right? It didn't affect our ability to, I don't know, be efficient human beings having a calculator. It just made us more efficient. It made us be able to do a lot more with our time than.
Yeah, if you look at how fast humans have been accelerating, it's because of the exponential effect of all these technologies building on each other.
Yep.
So
the future is bright. Mr. Matt Hixson, thank you so much. Please let our viewers know where they can find you, follow you, and learn more about the work that you're doing with Telligence.
Well, it's telligence.ai is the website. I will warn you, it probably doesn't reflect properly what we do anymore because it's moving so fast. I haven't had a chance to update it. But I'm Matt Hixson everywhere. Last MATTHIXSON. So
wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to The Good News Is. If you're excited about what's next, make sure to follow the show and visit goodnewsstudio.io for more stories, guests, and ways to stay connected. Until next time, stay curious.